Hey y'all, I just wanted to say, stick by to the end of this video because I have a little special thing for y'all for sticking to the end. So keep watching. Hello, welcome. If you've known me for a while, then you know that this is my second channel. But if you don't, then this is my first channel. Ignore the fact that I said this is a second channel. It is currently far away from being 1 a.m. Ignore the fact that I have broken sleeping schedule nowadays. Before I get into anything, or at least what I want to talk about, first let's just get some introductions out of the way. Hello, my name is Manny, but my online alias is Some Guy. The reason why it's Some Guy, it's because back in my freshman and sophomore years of high school, I really enjoyed math, and I just came up with the idea of sum, the sum of something, right? And I always saw myself as just a guy, nothing special, nothing ordinary, but nothing that would drive you away, I hope. I was just some guy, If this is like your first time seeing me, I do have another channel where I do live streams with my friends. Some of the archives of such streams are there. They are there for your enjoyment. So I do recommend, if you want to know more about just me and my friends, I recommend you go to that channel, but if not, that's fine by me. As you can see, I have a little moon over there. Thank you. You know who you are, who gave it to me. Thank you. I still love it regardless. And I have my Christmas lights up because it's the holidays. Originally, I was actually going to talk about how I found the winter seasons and Christmas to be weird for me because I have undiagnosed seasonal depression. Although this time around, it's been on and off for outside forces, but also just because I just want to ignore it as best as I can and just try my best to enjoy it like a normal human being. But today, as a first video, not only do I want to get introductions out of the way, but I also want to talk about vulnerability. I know it's a very welcoming topic, but I was inspired to talk about vulnerability by Joe Carmichael, who put a comedy special on HBO Max not too long ago. I only know about it because it was directed by Bo Burnham, as you may or may not know, has a bunch of Netflix specials, and made an impact on the world for a while when he released Inside. And I was a fan of Bo even before Inside, but seeing a lot more people be exposed to Bo, it was nice. It was a nice change of pace. But then when I saw that Bo was directing a special and it was released, I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And I saw it and I loved the special. I loved how personal it was. I love how funny it was. Everything about it, the camera angles, the lighting, it was amazing. I loved it. It's the most perfect comedy special in my opinion, right next to Fluffy. But vulnerability is an interesting thing to me. I have no script. This is just off the top of my head. So if none of this makes sense, I am sorry. What I want to talk about is nothing specific. It's more so the general sense of being vulnerable. Because as shown in Joe Carmichael's HBO comedy special, being vulnerable can, bring out the funnies, as most people say online, trauma gives you some personality. And that sort of begs the question, does vulnerability make good art? To be more specific, when you put yourself, or at least your own experiences, especially something that, means a lot to you or something that's happened to you, and you want to show the people what is on your mind, does that create good art? And in my opinion, I'd say it does, because it's more personal to the artist and they know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about, they know what they're trying to show. But it's always up to the execution of the artist. And when I say artist, obviously I don't just mean, draw like someone who draws or paints. I also mean in media, like film, even Instagram and TikTok posts, which I think a lot of people are getting carried away with, but that's a whole other subject. And in my instance, or at least in my case, for my first semester of college, I took a video art and sound class, and I noticed towards the end that I became a bit more vulnerable with my art pieces. Now, what I mean by that is that I sort of put myself more out there. I sort of explored myself, per se, in a way that I didn't think I was able to do. Because for a long time now, I just assumed I would just be talking to myself for years and trying to figure shit out by that point, or at least by that way. But being in this class and like figuring out different techniques on how to like, do cameras and shit, the lighting, editing, because of that class, I realized I really like editing. As much as it is a process, as much as it is painful sometimes, it is a love-hate relationship, but at the end of the day, I still love editing. It's honestly a lot of fun. Painful again, but it's a lot of fun for me. And I enjoy talking. Sometimes I enjoy just sitting down and talking. And that's sort of how I got through a lot of the shit that I have gone through. I just sit down and just talk, not to anyone specifically. I just talk to myself most of the time. And it'd be something like this, though I wouldn't be recording myself, at least not in video, but in audio instead. Because honestly, I don't think I'd be able to look at myself while I'm crying about something. Props to anyone who does that, though. As much as I find it weird to post pictures of yourself crying, I kind of get the appeal because I did that one night and I was like, okay, you know what? I kind of look okay when I cry. Kind of, not really. It was just a light cry. If it was ugly cry, no, I would not. If you'll allow me, I will talk about my own times I was vulnerable in my art pieces. I'll be quick with it. I don't want to spend too much time, explaining what I did and all that. I'll just get straight to the point. For my second project of that class, because the first one, it was like a collage of things that we had. I didn't really like that that project as much. But with my second one, it was a split screen. And what I did was I showcased what I would feel on a good day and what I would feel on a bad day. I took about 3 days to gather the footage that I wanted. I only used like 5 to 10% of the footage for each day. But regardless, I wanted to capture that feeling very well. Although it wasn't personal for me, I did put myself in those shoes because I am familiar with that feeling of waking up feeling shitty and waking up feeling fine. That was the first instance of me being sort of vulnerable. I wasn't doing it because I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna put myself out there because this is exactly how I feel. It wasn't exactly like that, but with the next project, it was a soundscape. Although at first I was confused as to what I would do with the project. It was one day where it was very windy, raining hard as hell, and it was extremely cold. I was walking back from that exact same class, and on campus we are right next to the lake, and I took the path where I am right next to the lake, which is a terrible thing to do if it's very cold, especially during the fall and winter. But I took that path anyway because I was like, you know what, I just want to see the waves. And when I was standing in the middle of campus and the lake, I was mesmerized because it felt like I was in the middle of the peace and quiet and the warmth of campus, the insides of the building. But at the same time, I was met with the harsh reality of the cold, the wind, the rain, but I was mesmerized. And that's sort of when the idea came to me, like, oh, I want to record the waves. But I was already outside for too long that I didn't record them at that moment. But then the next time we had class and we got our camcorders, that's when I went to the lake and recorded the waves. They were light waves, but they sounded heavy in the recording. And so by the end of it all, I had to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of the project. Because it wasn't just a matter of recording the sound and that was it. You had to make something out of it. Whether it be a story or just like, something, add a little spice to it is essentially what we had to do. And so I went into my closet and I just started ad-libbing after a lot of takes and trying to figure out what I was going to talk about. Although the main idea was going to focus on peace and chaos, or at least the middle of it. Although by the end of the project, I sort of focused on chaos and then leading towards that peace and finding that peace and sticking with it. So with that concept in mind, I sort of talked about my most previous relationship, how after it ended, I felt like my mind was constantly in a battle with itself. There was a lot of things in my head, there was a lot of questions, and somehow I found some peace and I stuck with it. And although it was, and honestly it still is, a bit difficult to hold on to that peace, I still find myself holding at least to like a little ounce of that peace. And by the end of the day, or by the end of the week, month, I find some sort of happiness out of it. And that's sort of the lesson I, tried to communicate, was that, and these are my exact words. I remember what I said. I said, there will always be some peace amidst the chaos of your mind. Stick with that peace, and you will find your way out of that chaos. And instead you will find happiness. And although I am ways away from that happiness, I can say that it will be worth it. And I edited it, put them together, and boom, I shipped it out, and the professor showed it to the class, and I think I did a good job with it. Not just with like the story I was telling, but more so with like, the sound. But since we are talking about vulnerability, I will say I did a good job with the story. One of my peers in that class, shout out Carson, told me that he felt like I was there with him near the beach telling him this, like we were just having a chill conversation, especially with the questions I propped up in the beginning, making you feel comfortable at first, and then, telling you, let me tell you my story, when I felt happy. And then I sort of go on, and then I tell you, although there is chaos, there will always be some ounce of peace. And, I take pride in that, I always try to like make my work sort of connect with somebody, if that makes sense. I don't want it to be like a specific feeling sometimes, I just want it to be a more broad thing. But me talking about that, I feel is something that a lot of people can relate to. That feeling of just like chaos within your mind, and then although it is difficult sometimes, you may find that peace. I feel like I'm sticking too long on this one project, even though I said it was going to be quick. So next project. After that, we had to work on our final project. And what I decided to do was my coming out, essentially, where I just came out to my peers as bisexual, because I've had a lot of time to myself this year, and I came out to my parents, which was a big deal for me. It was a big step forward. And if you've known me for a while, I wouldn't normally do this, but because I'm in college now, there's nothing really stopping me. And although I'm not wearing anything right now because it's 1 a.m., I would normally put on eyeliner every day. I was exploring my feminine side, because that was a side that I didn't think existed. But, after being in college, and after, seeing that no one's really going to judge you for damn near anything, at least not to your face, then, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not afraid to delve into that. And that sort of thing, I've always had a curiosity in it, but I've never really explored. I never ventured into that path until now. I'm honestly glad I did. And for that final project, I tried to make sure that everything was perfect. I was like, I recorded like a poem that I had written for the project. I found the perfect background music. Everything was just amazing. I'd say it's like my best work for that class. In general, I'm pretty sure I can do better. No, I can do better. But overall, I'm quite proud of it. So all this to say, that's not all I have to say, but in terms of my own vulnerability, I feel like when you put in the effort and you concisely put together each piece of the puzzle, when you become vulnerable with your art pieces, they are generally well received. And that's not to say, every time you're vulnerable, you need to make something out of art. No, you can be vulnerable anytime. Like me right now, this, you can consider art, me just sitting down on my couch, talking to my phone and a microphone. Sure, you can consider that art, but really, it's kind of not. Being vulnerable can just be as simple as just like telling someone how you're feeling. Even a simple interaction, just a few words between two people can bring out a lot. It can show a lot. And that's what I find interesting about being human. Naturally, I feel most people are closed, if that makes sense. They are not open about everything that happens in their lives. Normally, you have to gain their trust before they tell you anything. Especially like in my case, for a long time, I had seen my father as a robot of some kind because he never really displayed any real emotions. But then one day, he just got really emotional one day and just started telling me everything. And that humanized him for me. I felt for him, years of just living on my own for a while. And then, seeing him feel emotion was surprising. But I just found that interesting. Vulnerability. It's a scary thing. It's a scary thing to be vulnerable sometimes. Because as much as you want to trust people, sometimes, although I've never experienced it myself, some people may take advantage of your vulnerabilities and insecurities and use them against you. It's always scary, and I never judge anyone who's very closeted about what they feel. I was gonna record this video a couple days ago, but I was very sick, and also was not feeling well mentally. But oddly enough, during that, I was thinking this would be the perfect mindset to be in to record, because I am vulnerable right now and I can talk about whatever the fuck I want and I wouldn't care. But that's not good because there are some things that should not be said right now. But right now I'm this isn't what my voice normally sounds like. For one, I'm speaking a bit quieter because people are sleeping in the house, and also I am still a bit sick, but I only have a runny nose, so it's not too bad right now. But I am conscious enough, I am feeling a bit better mentally right now to not say anything that could, make shit bad for me right now. To an extent, I'm sort of being vulnerable right now, just to an extent. I'm not gonna tell you everything that's happened in my life, but I will say that right now, in this moment, I am meh okay. I'm in the middle of being meh. I'm in the middle of being okay. It's gotten to a point where I'm actually considering seeing my on-campus psychiatrist. So it'll be a first time of me going to therapy. So that'll be fun. Just to because I realize there's some things I just need to talk about, and obviously not everyone's going to be available to hear me out. So it would be helpful to just have some sort of resource. So if by the time I go back on campus and I still feel like I need to let something out, then I will quickly find a fucking psychiatrist on campus. I won't go into detail as to why I feel this way, as to why I'm meh okay. But if you know me personally, you probably gathered why, or at least you know why. But all I will say is that I am happy, or at least I am half satisfied with how things are going, but I'm not 100% okay with how things are going. If it was on a scale of 1 to 10 as to how satisfied I am about things right now, it'd be at a 4, or if we're being optimistic, 5. I say 4 realistically because I might actually declare a major next semester if I go through with what I want to do, and also I still have things I need to clear up, or at least find some solace in. Obviously, again, I won't go into detail, but all I will say is that I will feel better later on. For sure. Next year, I'm aiming to feel at least 80%, if not 90, or if not even 100. Fuck it, let's go for 100, Maddie. But yeah, that is my stance on vulnerability. It's a very beneficial thing to be vulnerable. Sure, not all the time with every person that you meet, especially if it's the first time. But once you get to know a person and you gain their trust and vice versa, I feel it's always beneficial to be vulnerable, because in my experience, it sort of strengthens the bond. Plus, it adds a little bit of spice to the friendship or relationship or whatever it may be. Right now, a lot of people probably wouldn't know that I'd be into this sort of thing, but here I am. Anyway, moving on. To sort of lighten the mood a little bit, I'll briefly, and I actually mean briefly this time, talk about things I enjoy, sort of as a get to know me a little bit better sort of thing. Lightning round, let's go. So really quickly, I just want to talk about Warzone 2. Now, the first Warzone, a thing that they got right wasn't just the movement, the shooting, the graphics, whatever. One thing that they got nailed into the head is the atmosphere, specifically the ambience noise. It's always so cool when in a game like Warzone, you'd never expect there to be ambience, the noise surrounding you, but there was always those things. There was like the little creakings of the houses. That was really about it. But in Warzone 2, they kind of upped the ante because now there's like the humming of lights, the running of a battery. It's so fucking amazing. And sometimes in that aspect, I consider Warzone to be a horror game because there's so much tension and so much paranoia in the game because you're always looking out for people. Battlefield 2042, in that game, although it flopped, I got it for $10 in GameStop, so hey, I'm not complaining. They have a bunch of characters with special abilities. One of the characters has a gliding suit, which you can use to your advantage to jump the enemy, or if you're like me, jump the enemy, pop a few, and then you're dead. My friends, I fucking adore my friends. Although in college I feel like I am lacking, I still have the good old friends from high school. So shout out to y'all, man. Y'all are keeping me alive. Hope you know that. I know I said that I would talk about things, and I know you didn't think I would be talking just about 3 things, but that's all I got for you. But yeah, I don't really know how to end this, to be honest. I don't have any structure right now. I just have little bullet points like I'll talk about vulnerability, blah 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 blah, whatever. That's all I got for you tonight. And as promised, I have 2 little things for you. I know I said a little thing, but these 2 are kind of big for me. Bam! Here, up here. Hopefully, man, he knows how to use editing software and YouTube Studio to know that this is where the video is gonna be. If not, I'm gonna look very fucking stupid in post, but we don't talk about that. So boom. Here I have a video that I made a while ago, sort of updating, or I was just bored that day and I wanted to record something, and it was very depressing, at least for me. So I just put it up on private, sent it to a few friends, put a few snippets on Instagram, and boom. There, you can see me being a bit more vulnerable. You can see me talking about shit that's been bothering me. Nothing specific, just general shit. And then boom, down here, no, down here, down here is my art project, my art final. I'm quite proud of it. I know I can do more with it, but I'll just leave it as is right now because it's 1 a.m. and I kind of want to sleep. I'm not gonna lie. That'll be it. Thank you for sticking by to the end of the video. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Hopefully the coming year will be better for me. Hopefully that'll be the beginning of my glow up era, even though I've been saying that for a long time now. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see y'all around. See y'all sometime, somewhere. I don't know. I'll figure an outro out.